Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Fiona McAllister joining us here. So exciting to have her back on the show. And she is a stylish woman. That's what she does for a living. Yeah, Style by Fiona. She's here live with us on the Zoomcast and podcast, giving all of her advice and opinions on style, on fashion, body type. She's an image consultant. She can help you. Go to stylebyfiona.com, and that's STYLE by BY Fiona FIONA.com. Hello, beautiful. Looking good today in your red.
Thank you very much. And
Great.
you look pretty great in that blue, I have to say.
It's a soft cottony mix. It's very soft. Must be wool. I don't know, but it's so cozy. So welcome back to the show. Tell us a little bit about what you do for new timers here, saying, who's this girl?
Well, everything you already mentioned. And my spin on everything is that I mix it with psychology. So I don't just talk about, sorry, I've got a little bit of a cold coming on, so my throat be a little scratchy throughout today. Anyways, yeah. So when you work with me, it's not just about the external. It's not just about the clothes, and it's not just about the makeup or whatever. It's also about the inside emotions and thought processes that impacts the way that we feel and the way that we think, and how that ultimately impacts the way that we look and how we choose to dress and how we choose to present ourselves to the world. So I really try to focus on helping women. Well, I have men clients too, but mostly women, to just know how all of that stuff works together, how our emotions affect the clothes we wear, how the clothes we wear affects how we feel about ourselves. And yeah, just helping women learn how to feel confident and dress beautifully with that whole combination of things.
Aw, awesome. Well, thanks. And last time, let's recap a little bit of the conversation last time. I know we're going to dive into that again.
Yeah, so last week we were talking about shopping strategies, and that is kind of like the last thing that we end up doing when you work with an image consultant. I mean, I know most of the time when we're not aware of all of the things that work for our bodies, we kind of just say, oh, I need something new, and we run to the mall or to the store or whatever. But if you haven't had or put in the time to learn all of the things that precede the shopping trip, it can make shopping actually really not a fun experience for a lot of people, right?
I know, it's true. It could be disastrous, yeah.
So for the beginning, well, we kind of went over this last week, but for anybody who's new listening, the first step you want to take is you want to get a color analysis done, and you want to get a body analysis done. Those are your first two things, because you're going to learn which colors to buy, which ones work for you, which ones don't work for you. And a body analysis is what will help you learn what body shape you have, what body type you have, which kinds of fabrics and cuts work for your specific body. And when you go into your shopping mode or whatever, when you are ready to go shopping, when you've got all of that information ahead of time, it makes the shopping experience a lot less painful. And even it can be even fun when you know more about what works for you and why. And so yeah, that's kind of the basic thing I would say to anybody who is really serious about improving the way they look and feel, is invest in those two services. And I mean, you can do more, like a lot of personal shoppers or personal stylists will go shopping with you.
Yeah.
I also offer that, but I don't really do the online shopping things. I know that there are stylists out there who do that, but yeah, so find a good stylist in your city. And if you're out in the rurals, there are people who will offer online lookbooks and things like this. So yeah, it can make the shopping experience a lot more enjoyable. If you, yeah, well, I mean, like we talked about last week, right? Sometimes if we're not in a good place emotionally, or that little critic that we all carry around in our back of our brain,
true.
can decide to say, oh, you look awful today. And yeah, so we kind of talked last week also about online shopping and all of those kinds of things, what kind of fabrics work and why. But today I wanted to focus on helping people understand a little bit more about the different levels of clothes that are made, what sort of thing works for different price points, and understanding the difference between like fads and trends and more kind of classics items, so that we're working up towards building a wardrobe and rather than just shopping haphazardly, right?
So true. Yeah, happens all the time, and then you just pick, and it's like, I don't really need this. Oh, it's on sale, but it's gonna end up as stuff that's just in your closet or on the floor. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, even if it's on sale, if you never use it, you're not saving any money, right?
Yeah. It's
Like
true.
if you buy something that is on sale but doesn't suit you or doesn't suit your personality or doesn't really work for your life overall, you didn't save any money. You just spent money, you just wasted money, right? So
Yeah, so true.
that's why it's just the whole combination of everything, what works for you, and understanding how stores work and what levels of clothes and your budget and all of that, which can just feel a little overwhelming, I think, for some people. And so they just kind of say, it doesn't matter. I don't do fashion. I just wear clothes.
Yeah.
But even that attitude is still an attitude about how you look. It's an attitude about how you feel. And so I want people, first of all, to understand that it's not vanity to put time and care into how you look, because that's one of the things I hear from people is that, well, I'm not going to be one of those stylish snobby people or whatever variation of that theme that they have running through their mind, right? Is that it really comes down to caring about yourself. And as a society, women are taught, well, no, that just makes you selfish. And women are raised to be caregivers to other people. And if you care for yourself, you're seen as selfish and vain. And so it just makes it a really nasty place for women to have to navigate, right? So yeah, that would be the first thing I would say is try to pay attention to what your thoughts are about even fashion in general and how you want to look, and whether you feel that it's worldly or vain, or I don't know, whatever words you want to use.
Of course, right? Yeah.
But I tell you, when you finally, and it can take some time, but when you've put in the effort to learn what works for you, and when you get a wardrobe that you are excited to walk into, that can be almost life-changing, because that's the first thing we do every morning is we walk into or look in the closet or open the dresser or whatever. And if the first thing you feel is, ugh, why do I still have all this garbage? That's not setting yourself up for a good day to begin with, right?
Yeah. Or, it's like I have drawers in my house that I know I don't wear half the stuff, but I think one day I'm going to wear it, even pajama pants. They're too tight on my waist. One day when my waist isn't as fat, like it's not fat, but like, you know what I mean? I'm like, they're cozy, and they sit there and they clog up space in my drawers and I can't shut my drawers. And why? Why am I attached to this stuff? I got to let it go.
Well, sometimes, and that's another part of this whole thing too, is the emotional attachments that we have to other clothes. And what does the clothing represent that we're attached to it, right? Like, what is the emotional attachment to that piece of clothing? And when you can figure that sort of thing out, it helps you to be able to clean out the closet a little bit more and to let go of things, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us, when we start getting older, I mean, even if we're already thin people, our bodies change, we gain weight. It's just seems to be a part of aging, unless you're going to go to the gym for 3 hours a day, which most of us can't do.
I know, right?
Right? Either time wise or money wise or whatever. It's just not realistic, but we can still be very healthy and just be a little bigger than we were when we were like 20s, right?
It's so true, right? Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, in the case of what you were describing, I would guess that the attachment to those thinner pants was attachment to feeling young and beautiful, and attaching the skinny to feeling young and beautiful. Whereas, I mean, I don't know 100%. That takes more delving into than we have time in a half an hour. But
I know, right?
when I work with my clients, we address those emotional things that come with being able to let go of clothes. And so yeah, that's a huge part of this whole process. So when people say that fashion is frivolous, well, they are just not really understanding it, So anyways,
Anyways, all right.
Anyways,
Passion is frivolous. I like that. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on a
well,
roll.
it's not frivolous, but there's
I
a lot
know.
of people who feel that way when they just don't understand
Mm-hmm.
how intertwined our emotions and our identity is with the clothing that we choose to wear, right? I mean, if you're like dirt poor and you really can't afford to wear anything other than the basics, fair enough. But most people can find ways to, even if they're on a very limited budget, they can still find ways if they put in a little time and effort to look good with what they can afford, right? Like
Yeah.
there's tons of thrift stores that you can go to, and anyway, we talked about some of those kinds of things last week: thrift store shopping, consignment shopping, clothing swaps with friends. But I wanted today to kind of talk about the levels that if you're going to be buying clothes like from the stores, from new,
Mm-hmm.
that there's kind of like three levels of shopping. There's like couture, there's ready to wear, and then there's mass market.
Okay.
And within each of those levels, there's sub levels, so to speak. And your couture are brands like Chanel, Burberry, Versace, those kinds of really big brand names. And they also come with the price tag of being couture.
Of course.
And
Yep.
so, right. So for most of us, those are out of reach, unless you happen to find them at a thrift shop or consignment stores. But even then, like there's a consignment store in my city where, I mean, the Chanel jackets are still $500, and I was just like, I just
Uh-huh.
that's just still too much for me, right?
I don't have anything designer. I don't. Wait, I do have, I can't even tell the name of them. One pair of shoes that an ex-boyfriend bought me that are expensive with the red bottom.
Oh, Louis
Vuitton,
Vuittons, yeah,
Louboutins. I'm like, I don't even know.
Louis
I don't
Vuitton,
care.
yeah.
Thank you. Like I don't know. I don't have any. I'm more of a bargain shopper. I don't get that aspect of pocketbooks and but fashion. But some people are just so. I'm like, I'll do the knockoff that's at Macy's or I see on the street.
Right.
To each his own. Though I spend my money on other things. I spend my money on kids and vacations. So you
Well,
go.
exactly. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just all personal choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um yeah, so and the ready to wear brands are going to be what you're going to find at stores like Nordstrom in the States. In Canada, we have stores that are Holt Renfrew and the Bay. Um so like things like Michael Kors, Tory Burch, Kate Spade, those are kind of your
Yep.
ready to wear,
Yep.
which for me I consider expensive.
Mm-hmm. They are.
But they're even much less expensive than the couture items, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have your mass market, which is pretty much this varies from country to country depending on what stores are available there. But mass market is so your high-end mass market will be stuff that would be mostly in the malls or boutiques, depending on, like I said, which country you live in and what brands are available there.
Okay.
And your high-end mass market are clothes like at the mall level, and your low-end mass market would be stuff at like Walmart.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I would say for most folks, you want to try and buy clothes that are on the high end of the mass market or the low end of the ready to wear. So if you can get stuff from Michael Kors, like on deep discounts when they're clearing everything out,
Mm-hmm.
or from other malls, stores. I don't really know a whole lot about the brands that are in the States, but like in Canada, well, specifically if you're looking at like sportswear, we have a brand called Lululemon here. Is that in the States?
Mm-hmm.
Lululemon?
Yep. We have Lululemon.
Okay, well, I don't know.
It's just
I
crazy you
don't.
just said, wait, Lulu, no, I'm laughing because not laughing, but there is this thing going on TikTok about Lululemon leggings because there's some type of in the spandex they use in the crotch on certain leggings, including Lululemon. It's cancer causing. It was just an
Oh,
article the other day. Yeah, yeah. Okay, just don't mind me. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
anyways, I'm afraid I haven't come across that
Mm-hmm.
stuff just yet, but it's always good to be in the know about what sort of fabrics are doing this and that thing. And but I would say anyway, so just for an example that's in the States as well, Lululemon, it would be like high-end mass market, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Um,
True.
so when I say to people, if you can buy stuff like that's of about that quality, but you can get it on the discount or get it at thrift stores or whatever, those are the kind of items that are going to last you longer than if you buy stuff at Walmart. And there's nothing wrong with stuff from Walmart. And if you take care of your clothes, no matter where you get them from, they will last longer, of course.
Right.
But the Walmart kinds of clothes, generally, they're just not, the quality is just not as good.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of whichever factories they're made. Sometimes in the factories, people are paid by quota rather than by the hour. So
Okay.
how many items they make, the faster they make them, the more pay they get, right? Instead of when things are made in factories that where people are paid by the hour or paid by salaries, then they're paying more attention into the quality of the clothes rather
Okay.
than the quantity that's being made. So for people who are interested in building a wardrobe, I would say shop at the high end of mass market, unless you're like incredibly wealthy and you can buy whatever you want, whatever you want. But for 99% of us, that's not the availability of money.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing to keep about, or to know about, is if items are fad, trendy, or classic, right? Because we've all seen the items that are on the runways, but they're only in for like 3 months, right? That's pretty much a waste of your money unless you have a style personality where that item works and it would be something that you would wear for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the other thing to keep in mind is when you're shopping, know what your style personality is, as well as your body type and the colors that work for you. And when you put all of that together, then even if something is like a trendy item, or a fad item, but it suits your style personality, you'll still wear it even after it kind of falls out of style.
Yeah.
But in mind that too, you want to still stay kind of current, right? You don't want to be wearing things unless it's like vintage that's from the 60s, right?
Yeah, true. You're right. Uh-huh.
So, I mean, this can all seem a little overwhelming, I think, at times for people because they're just like, I just don't know, so I'm just not going to bother. But people who buy kind of trendy items already tend to be sort of fashion forward anyway, or fashion thinking. So for most people, if you get a sense of what your fashion personality is, or your style personality rather, I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, where it was like, do you tend to wear clothes that are more sporty? Do you tend to wear clothes that are more kind of elegant? Do you tend to wear more clothes that are more like romantic? So when you put all of that together, then you start to build your wardrobe that works for you. Yeah. And I think the other thing I wanted to say is one of the major things that happens in the fashion industry is there's like the Pantone colors of the year, right?
Yeah.
And so the designers make clothes based on those, and then the buyers fill the shops with those kinds of things. But don't always rely on what the fashion magazines tell you is the in colors, because it may not suit you.
Yeah.
If Pantone says burnt orange is the color of the year, well, I look terrible in that color, so I'm not going to buy it, even if it's the in trendy color, because there's nothing worse, I think, than buying something that's quote unquote in, but looks awful on you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Too many of us make that mistake when we're
Yeah.
like, oh, but whatever model was wearing it in whatever fashion show. And you're like, okay, but you have a different body type, you're a different age, and you have different coloring than those models, almost guaranteed. So
Yeah.
you got to learn all of the details about you specifically and build from the inside out, emotionally, physically. Yeah, build your wardrobe out like that rather than taking information from the top down and just wearing whatever's on runways or sorry.
True. Okay. Have some water. Do you have any water or tea, anything?
Yeah,
I've
unfortunately I
been
don't think
drinking
I.
coffee. Do you have
Oh,
7-Elevens in Canada or no?
oh yes, definitely we do.
Okay, but you have Tim
All right,
Hortons
I'll
too,
take that
right?
through the.
Tim, take it through the. You all, Tim Hortons, right? Is that like,
Wait, oh yeah, that's
or is
Canadian.
Starbucks like taking over? Like, what's the
Yeah.
best?
Well, I don't drink coffee. I think it's gross, so
Okay,
I don't know.
it's like
But
dirt. My kids say it tastes like dirt.
yeah, I kind of feel like it tastes like that too. So what can I say? Coffee's not my thing. But yeah, we've got Timmy's and we've got Starbucks and all of that. So, But
All
I
right,
just
sorry
didn't.
to digress. Go ahead. We were talking
That's
about
okay.
yeah.
I just totally didn't bring water to the desk with me today, and I was like, that was unwise. Oh well. I'll
You can
learn
always
for
get up and
next
walk
time.
away. It's okay. It's okay.
Uh, um, and so yeah, it's like you want to make sure that you're getting good value for your money when you're shopping, right? So the other thing to think about is cost per wear. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's basically whatever you pay for an item divided by how many times you figure you're going to wear it. So if you buy a pair of shoes that's $100 and you wear them every day for a year, that's really good cost per
Yeah.
wear, right? Or if you buy like investment pieces, right? Like if you I'm a jewelry sucker, so I sometimes tend to spend more money on watches and things like that. But I mean, the last watch I bought was a Guess watch and I paid $200, I think, but I had it for 7 years. I mean, and I wore it every day. Like that's a really good cost per wear, right? Like we're talking pennies.
I wear my UGG boots from 2014 still. And I've even washed them a few times and they look gross and different, but they're still comfy. So
Oh, that's great. So that's what I'm saying, right? If you spend a little bit more money on classic pieces, that work for everything with you, style, body, colors, all of that, clothes can last a long time if you take care of them properly, you know? And so it's about learning where to spend your money. So buying at the low end of the ready to wear or high end of mass market, they kind of overlap a bit. Buying things that suit you and that will suit your wardrobe needs for, say, you would want it at least 3 years, usually, I would think. I sometimes even have some things that are even a decade old because I've just taken really good care of it. And it's not something I wear every day, right? Like
yeah.
a special occasion dress or something like that. But that suits me in all the ways. And so even when it's maybe not the most in style, I still look fantastic in it, right?
I had a wedding on Friday. Let me just I wore a dress. The last time I have a picture of it, it was 2010. It was black, so it doesn't go out of style. And it was like a high neck, like a little ruffle here because of my surgery. My groin from the hernia, it's all exploded. So I needed something baggy and it just got compliments on it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, it's like so old, but like sometimes there's
It
good
still
stuff
looks
like
so
that.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? Is like things like occasion wear, those things last for years because you only wear them maybe a handful of times in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so for stuff like that, I would usually say go ahead and spend a couple $100 on those kinds of items, or even more, depending on your budget. Um, but yeah, so it's about knowing what sort of stores are in your price range and knowing what sort of stores carry the kind of clothes you want to buy, right?
Yeah. True.
And so it's just all about really learning about yourself and learning about, well, yeah, really just learning about yourself and knowing that you're worth it, right? I think so many
Yeah.
women struggle with the thought that, well, I can't spend any money on myself. You know, it's all got to go to the kids or it's all got to whatever. But the better you feel about yourself, the better your family feels.
Yeah.
And so none of this is frivolous or vain. It's just all learning about how to play the game, I guess you could say, and
So
how to
true.
build a wardrobe that works for you. Yeah.
Beautifully said. All right. And remind us how we can reach out to you, please.
You bet. I can be reached at phone 403-966-5896, and you can find me online at stylebyfiona.com. Or if you want to email me, you can email me at fiona@stylebyfiona.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here as always. And we'll talk next week, I hope. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.